Oi pessoal, I'm Rusty, and in this video we're going to talk about the differences between Brazilian Portuguese and European Portuguese. First, let's talk numbers. Well, in Brazil the number of speakers is close to 200 million. In Portugal it's about 10 million people speaking European Portuguese. Brazilian Portuguese was highly influenced by other cultures. The first one, the natives that used to live here in Brazil before the Portuguese arrived. So we still use a lot of words that came from languages like Tupi-Guarani, and you can see them mostly in like place names and also fauna and flora. For example, for some places we have Itaquaquecetuba, Pindamonhangaba, and this sounds like tongue twisters, but there's this one that's widely known, internationally known, Ipanema. And in fauna and flora you can see words like abacaxi, which is pineapple, and jacaré, which is a kind of alligator that we have over here, and also arara, that little bird that you can see in the movie Rio. We are also influenced by African languages, and you can see that in words related to religion, food, music, and of course European languages as well. For example, if you're familiar with the channel, if you have seen other of my videos, you probably noticed that I always end saying ciao ciao, and although it's written in a different form, ciao derived from the word ciao in Italian, C-I-A-O, that means both hi and goodbye, but here in Brazil we use just as bye-bye or goodbye. Well, not to mention words that we kind of adopted from English. I could make a video just to talk about all the words that we use in Portuguese that came from English. So what about trivia? I would say 4 words. I'm not gonna write them, and I want you to figure out what they mean. The first one is really easy. Sanduíche. Second, picape. Third, panqueca. And the fourth, surf. If you know what I mean, please leave a comment, and in 3 or 4 days I would tell you the answer here in the comment section below. With that being said, I will talk about the differences, starting for things that I mentioned in some of my videos. Well, the first one is the difference between tu and você. In Portugal they use tu much more often, while here in Brazil we use você when we're referring to the second person of the singular. This actually makes verb conjugation a little bit easier if you're trying to learn Brazilian Portuguese. Not that you don't use it, because there are parts of Brazil where we use tu a lot, but still it's much more common to use just você instead of tu. The second thing that I mentioned is the use of the gerund. Where here in Brazil we say, for I am talking, eu estou falando. In Portugal they use eu estou a falar, while they use a plus the infinitive form, we use neo in the end of the verb. In the video about possessive pronouns and possessive adjectives, I also mentioned the difference between seu and dele or dela. Here, although it's used both in Brazil and Portugal, Portugal would say seu more often, while here in Brazil we usually try to use dele or dela, because seu could mean his or her, while dele is specifically his, and dela is her. So that's how it works, and we use that much more often. Another thing that it's easily noticeable about Brazilian and European Portuguese is that here in Brazil we are more informal and less attached to grammar rules when we are speaking Well, in Portugal, Portuguese is spoken over there sounds much more formal, and it's something that they kind of brag about. So one very simple example will be the phrase I love you. In Brazilian Portuguese, we would say eu amo você or eu te amo. But in Portugal, they would say amo-te, because the particle te has to go after the verb when it's in the beginning of a phrase. So they say amo-te. With the accent, of course, not like this. But that's how it works over there. When it comes to spelling, we've been trying to unify Portuguese for every Portuguese-speaking country. So there are words like, for example, act. So in both Europe and Brazil, we say ato. We write it A-T-O, while in Portugal they used to write A-C-T-O, and they changed it. Now it's ato, A-T-O everywhere. Another word close to this is fato, fact. But in this case, in Brazil, we pronounce it fato, while in Portugal they pronounce facto, with C in the middle. So since I can do accents, I would not try to show you how it works. I would put a link down below. This is something that I actually wanted to talk about for ages, and now I have the opportunity. There's this website called FORVO, F-O-R-V-O, and over there you can see people from many different countries pronouncing the same word. It's a very nice resource and you should definitely check it out. I will put some examples of words that I'm talking about over here and even phrases. And for this one you would say Brazilian Portuguese pronouncing de fato, in fact, and a person from Portugal saying de facto, the way they pronounce it. So please check it out right now or in the end of the video, doesn't matter, but you should to see the difference. So because they still pronounce the C, the word in Portugal is still written like F-A-C-T-O, facto. Continuing with pronunciation, we have T's and D's. And the best way to explain the difference is by giving you a few examples. First, let's talk about the T. The word hot in Brazil we say quente. Quente, if you're from Rio, it's something like quente. In the northeast would be something closer to quente. And in the south you still hear something like quente. In Portugal, this word will be close to quente. Of course, they also have many different accents in Portugal, but since I'm not familiar with them, this is something that you should check out. The difference with the D. I would choose a very good example for this one. Rio de Janeiro. That's how we pronounce over here in Brazil. Rio de Janeiro or Rio de Janeiro. The softer D. While in Portugal they would say Rio de Janeiro. You said the D is really a D, not a G or anything like this. And the third letter that I want to talk about is S. In Portugal they use a sh sound, and here in Brazil, although there is this same sound in Rio, in other parts of Brazil we have the S sound. The word pastel, for example. You could pronounce it pastel, like I just said, or pastel. This would be the pronunciation in Brazil. In Portugal, although they would say something like pastel, the vowels are different. Well, the bird is dying. So the last thing before I go, the video is gonna have a part 2 because it's getting too long. And you can see that I will put the link to the pronunciation of pastel de nata, and you see that here in Brazil you pronounce it kind of like I said, pastel de nata, and in Portugal you would say pastel de nata. You can see there are differences in the consonants, and also they tend to speak with a closed mouth while we speak with a wide open mouth. So you can hear the vowel sounds more easily in Brazilian Portuguese than in European Portuguese. So I hope to see you in part 2. Ciao, ciao.